Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be showing you how to color correct your clips so you have a baseline before you start applying your color grade. So there's this difference between color correction and color grading. Color correction just balances your image and your video so everything is, there's a baseline, so when you add your look, everything is in unison. You don't have one looking this way, the other looking that way. So we're going to hop into Davinci Resolve and then I'll show you my workflow on how I get everything going. Okay, so I've already put the clips into Davinci Resolve. I've already put the color space as Gamut Cine S-Log3. So these are the images that I took. So I set one with the right white balance at 5500 Kelvin, and then I put another one at 3200 Kelvin even though the light was 5500, and that's why this one looks blue. Okay, so we're gonna come in here, we're gonna go into the color page. Okay, I'm going to create some multiple nodes, then I'll add a LUT on there. I used a Leeming LUT balanced, and then I'm gonna go over to right here. So on this page we have our red, our green, and our blue channels. Okay, so you want to ensure that your red, your green, and your blue are lined up. Now when you shoot in auto white balance, okay, you set the camera to auto white balance, it's not accounting for the tint, so your greens and your magentas, so that may be a little bit off. The only way to really get an accurate, as close to accurate white balance is if you were to use a, right here, a color checker with a gray card and set your white balance that way, so it would take into account the light that's bouncing off of it and your tint and your magentas. Okay, so that's what I did here. And then the second clip over here, I purposely set the white balance off, so I set it to 3200 even though the scene was set for 5500. So we're gonna come in here to the first clip and we're gonna check the white balance. So I'm gonna come in here, and the white balance stuff is super easy, okay, once you have an understanding for it. So right here in the center, we'll show picker value. Right here in the center, right here in the center over here, you can see that this gray card is at 214, 214, 214. So that means it's well balanced. Your red, your green, and your blue are even. So you want to have that. This is telling me that the image is perfectly balanced, okay? And if we were to go to the second one, you would notice that my red is at 185, my green is at 213, and my blue is at 234. And as you can see, the image is quite blue, so we know that we have more blue than we have green. And then also, if you look at the vector scope right here, you'll see that the majority of the information is pushing into the blue and the cyan color. So you have your yellows, your blues, your greens, your reds, and all that on the color spectrum. So in order to balance this out, what you would need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll just add a LUT right here. You would go to your offset, which is this wheel right here, and you would just drag this wheel into the opposite direction, which is pushing it more to the reds. Okay, and all I did was I dragged it from down here to over here, and you can see the majority of the information went over to this way. Okay, and now when I look at the gray card again, I see I have 206, 208, 209. So I'm more in the ballpark right now, okay? And if we were to reset that, you'd see we were at 177, 209, 234, like that. And this is where having a calibrated monitor comes in, because you're able to look at the image and see where you're at. So now we're at 205, 208, 211. I still have a little bit more blue than red, so I'll keep pushing it over to red, recheck it. Now we're at 211. We'll keep going over like that. 210, 207, 208. So now I have more red. So I'll just get rid of a little bit of red. And now we're at 209, 207, 209. So I'm happy, I'm satisfied with this balance, okay? And then if we go over here, this one was 210, 210, 210, 214. This one was perfectly balanced because I set it using the card, okay? Now, wish I had more. It was super easy, huh? Okay. So, oh wow. Okay, so we balanced the image by just using our offset, which is this one right here, and we dragged it into the opposite direction. We had more blue right here, so we just dragged it over to red and we brought it into the center right here, and that means we have a balanced color. Now let's say you're doing like a real estate shoot and there's some color cast, but you haven't really trained your eye yet to know which color cast there is. What you can do is you can go into your curves and go into your hue versus saturation, and right here is going to tell you where your color cast is at. So as we can see, this image is blue, and then we spiked up here, boom, spiked up, so we know there's a lot of blue. So if I wanted to, I can hit this blue one. I'll bring these over here, bring this over here like that, and then I isolate that blue color and I bring that saturation down, and as you can see, it's pushing it over here. I don't recommend white balancing this way because you're gonna throw your colors off, okay? But I'm just showing if you're at a real estate shoot and you have a little bit too much orange or yellow in the walls, you can just come over here to your red, boom, 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 okay? And you can just pull it out of there precisely, okay? So we'll back off of that, and then we'll just reset that. We're back to blue, and then we balanced it. So it's really important that you color correct and you balance out your images before you start to color grade it, okay? And you want to ensure that your scenes are matching, okay? You want to match in luminance, you also want to match in color and contrast saturation. So my workflow would be, I would apply the LUT, and then all my adjustments happen before the LUT so I don't affect the LUT. I'll come over here, I'll check my white balance, so the white balance is good. We'll do it on this one. And then I'll use my parades, and then I'll start looking at my luminance. So I go white balance, then I go exposure right here, and then I'll bring it up or down depending on where I need it to be. So I know clipping is right there. We'll take it up to about there. After I set my exposure, I'll set my contrast. So I'll just turn and turn and turn until I see a contrast amount that I like. And if I go too far, I can play with the pivot, and this is going to make it darker or brighter, however I want, balancing out the histogram to where I need it. Okay, it's a little bit too much contrast, and as you can see down here, the blacks are starting to clip. So what I can do is I can just go to a regular curve, and I can bring up my black levels like that, and then that pushed up my highlights, so I can bring down my highlights like that. Okay, so I control how black is black and how much white is white. Okay, after I do that and I have my contrast set and it's in a good spot, I'll go to my saturation. I'll add a little bit of my primary wheels. I'll add a little bit of saturation. I'll just add a lot of it, and then I'll back it off to where it looks good. Okay, so right about there. And then I'll add maybe a little color boost. I think that the color boost works a lot better on skin, but there's no skin in this image. So usually if there's a person in the shot, I'll use my color boost, bring it up to about 4 or 5, as long as the skin doesn't start to look orange. And then that's it. Look at that. So we have, this is what it was in camera, and this is what I have after I colored it. Now, if I wanted, like, let's say the shot was a little bit dark and I needed to do a little bit of denoiser. What I can do is I can hit on my first node right here, this first node, I can hit Shift and S, and that'll give me a node before that node, and then I can add some noise reduction. I'll go to 5, change this to better, faster. Doesn't really give you that good. I'll keep this at medium, and then my luma, I'll put that at about 10. And then for my spatial, I'll go to better, change this to medium, and I'll put that at 5. Boom, and that'll denoise the image. Once you denoise the image, it's really stressful on the computer system, so you're not going to be able to have good playback, but you do that at the end once everything is colored, okay? And lately what I've been doing is I've been sharpening my images. So I'll come over here to my blur, and then under radius right here, I'll bring this down to about 48 or 47. And that gives me a really crisp looking image, okay? It just sharpens everything up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Just look at your offset, look at your vector scope, and see where it's leaning towards the most. If you can't really pinpoint where it's leaning towards the most, you can also use your curves, hue versus saturation, and then look for the spikes, okay? But your goal is to bring all the colors to the center and balance that image before you go in and add any saturation, contrast, and stuff like that. So I hope this video helps, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, DM me. I'm here to help. I'm here to offer knowledge, and yeah, let's grow.